school year. So please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Couple announcements. Trustee Scott is not here this evening. She is on vacation. She'll be returning for our next meeting, the 21st of August. And Trustee Millerick is on his way. He's in San Francisco, and he'll be here shortly. So Trustee Cooper is going to be our acting vice president for this evening. And we will be closing in memory of, we lost Ron Franklin, who was a past superintendent. His picture is up on our wall back there. He was our superintendent from 1979 to 1987. So he served 8 years here and well-liked, a great gentleman. His son lives here in town with his family, Doug Franklin, and has put together a foundation in honor of his dad. And the money goes right back to our students here for scholarships when they become seniors. They apply for the scholarship and it goes right back. So it's a very nice gesture to honor his father and to give back to our students here. So we'll be closing in memory of him this evening. All right, so Trustee Cooper, can we have closed session announcements, please?
Sure. For closed session, with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session, pursuant to Government Code 54954.5B, conference with real property negotiators, Property Hill Education Center, agency negotiator Yancey Hawkins, negotiating party City of Novato, under negotiations, price and terms, and we gave direction to staff on that. The next one, with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Government Code 54954.5B, conference with real property negotiators, property parcel 1B, C Street, agency negotiator Yancey Hawkins, negotiating parties were North Bay Children's Center. Under negotiations were price and terms, we gave direction. The next one, with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, conference with legal counsel, pending litigation, Coalition to Save San Marin versus Nevada Unified School District, Marin County Superior Court case number CIV 1702295. Once again, we gave direction. Next is with respect to every item on business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Government Code 54957 and 54957.6. Conference with labor negotiators, Chris Koska, Deputy Superintendent, Human Resources and Strategic Development. Employees organization was Nevada Federation of Teachers, commonly known as NFT, and that was discussion only. Finally, with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Government Code 54957 and 54957.6, conference with labor negotiators, Chris Koska, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources and Strategic Development. Employees organization was California School Employees Association, commonly known as CSEA, and that was discussion also. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. And just for the record, item C, which was the property parcel 1B with North Bay Children's Center, I did recuse myself from that due to proximity of where I live to that item. So, okay, let's move on to approving our agenda. The agenda stands as is. Anybody, I need a motion to? Okay, first by Trustee Cooper, second by Trustee Mack. All in favor to approve the agenda? Thank you, 5-0, 2 absent. And then consent items, I do not have, and if anybody would like to speak on any item on the agenda or not on the agenda, please fill out a blue card, which is located on that cart over there. And we will put you where that item is, or if it's not on the agenda, we have a spot for that as well. And you'll have 3 minutes to speak before the board on the item you're specifying. So I don't have anything for consent. Does any trustee like to pull any item on consent? No? Okay. And Trustee Cooper?
I'll move to.
Okay, good.
I'll move to adopt the
Okay.
consent agenda.
So for the consent item, I have a first by trustee Nell and a second by trustee Aguila. All in favor to approve the consent agenda? Okay, thank you, 5-0. I'd like to recognize 4 of those items were grants, and they were given to several of our programs, 4 of our programs here at the district from the Peter E. Haas Junior Family Fund. Those 4 items total, I added them up, they were $476,000 in total, and they are constantly giving money to our district to fund outside of the normal education that we do here. And that's just an amazing opportunity for us and for our kids to have these extra programs to help them along in their education, and it's a huge asset to us. So I just want to thank them for that. They continue to do that. And these are ones that they do every year. It's been great. So, all right, announcements from the board. Anything, trustee Nell? What'd you do this summer?
A wonderful summer so far. I look forward to school starting and getting back to work.
Okay, trustee Aguila.
Yeah, I attended a community meeting here called Not in Our Town, and hopefully, here we are. So hopefully we can partner and help our Novato citizens and students and move forward.
Okay, thank you, trustee Mack.
Just looking forward to getting started. Here we go.
Great, trustee Scott. Hello. Trustee Gill.
Let's see, I couldn't do
I'm
it.
used to seeing her right here. Oh, that was good. And you have the deepest voice out of everybody here.
That was hard.
Okay.
Today I had a
Perfect.
wonderful opportunity. Good to see everybody and welcome back. I went by Novato High and San Marin's fields, and what a tremendous
Isn't that
difference
great?
they're coming along. It's a great bunch of work this summer, and Mike, thanks for you. And I have to tell you, I went by, or your leadership, San Ramon, sorry, I was drawing a blank. One day in the, 10 o'clock in the morning, just drive by to see what was going on, and I see Greystone West doing their job up there on the roof, and I was proud. I thought, yeah, we're hiring people that are representing us and doing a good job and reporting back. So those 3 things. Thanks.
And we're on schedule.
Yeah, even better.
Great. I have nothing to report out. Superintendent Hoagland?
Thank you, President Butler. So we have a lot going on right now, a lot of planning for the next few weeks. So school starts on the 23rd. We have all the teachers and people come back on the 20th. So we have our welcome back rally at San Marin on Monday morning at 8 to 8:30 is coffee, 8:30 to 9:30 is our welcome back rally. Then from 10 to 12, we have professional development going on. Elementary is doing our reading and writing workshop. Secondary is doing learning targets, and then they go back to their sites for their staff meetings on Monday afternoon. We have our district leadership team administrator retreat on Friday all day. So we'll be doing some Indigo work, some equity work, and some district goals and kind of role of what the district leadership team is. Nancy New is filling in for us at Novato High School, which we appreciate. She used to work in the district and then was a longtime principal at Redwood. We have interviews tomorrow for the Novato High principal. We have 6 excellent candidates, and hopefully we can make a decision on that. And let's see, we have Leading for Equity Institutes at both high schools next Thursday and Friday at San Marin and Novato High. So that's led by the National Equity Project, so they're excited about that. And then we also have one of our new hires. So we're really excited this year because for the first time since I've been here, we've had some pretty major turnover, and I think it's been a good thing for us and some great new people. Amy's out there, and Amy's been working really hard since right off the bat in July. And the other person that we hired for San Jose Middle School is Debbie Richardson. So Debbie came from Petaluma High School as the assistant principal. And Mr. Koska, you want to say a little bit more about Debbie? And Debbie, you want to come up and get your picture taken for the 80th time and go from there.
Yeah, and Debbie shared with us that she has an interpretive dance that she's going to do for us after I do my introduction part. Yeah. So, we're thrilled to have Debbie Richardson come join our team. She's been an assistant principal with Petaluma Before that, she has other experiences as an assistant principal. And she is a second or third career person. She also spent some time with IBM in the 80s and then doing training around customer service and customer support. So lots of different experience. You've heard me say a lot. I really like bringing in people that have had different career paths and have different real world perspectives that they bring to our work. So we're just super thrilled to have Amy here and Amy. We're thrilled to have Amy too. Sorry, thank you. We're thrilled to have Debbie here, and I'm not going to let you do the interpretive dance, but that 10-minute speech you've been working on, you can go ahead and
do that now?
yeah,
Oh my goodness.
maybe say a couple things to
Okay,
the board.
thank
That'd be great.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity just to speak to you this evening, and also for the wonderful opportunity to be principal at San Jose Middle School. I think it's really wonderful for you to make sure that there was air conditioning ready for me when I arrived. That's just really wonderful. I'm being a little glib about that, but it really does show to me that the people of this community care deeply about their children, and that providing a really good learning environment is an important thing. And when I look at the bond measure, and I look at what the PTA does, and I look at the support that we get in the community, it makes me feel like I'm anxious to be a part of that, because this is the future, is our children, and I'm so excited to be part of this team. So thank you very much.
Nice to have you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Do we want to do a picture?
That's
Good.
it, thanks.
Okay, thanks. Let me just circle back to the board. Marin County School Boards Association kickoff dinner, that's the 23rd of August, so please make sure you sign up. But there's a link on the email we all got. It's real easy. I know I'll be there. You can't be there, okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah, just a reminder, that's all. Great, thank you. I have no comment for non-agenda public comment, so we'll move on. Presentations. This is Marin Promise is here this evening. Hi. Hi. And Jim's going to kick it off.
So we get the PowerPoint up and running there, but I'd like to thank these three ladies for being here. And one of the things I love about being in Marin is the amount of community support that we have. Whether that's Marin Promise or Marin Community Foundation or the Haas Foundation or 10,000 Degrees or on and on and on. And that doesn't happen in a lot of other places. One of the first people that I met right when I came on board 3 years ago was Anne, and talked a lot about Marin Promise, and we talked a lot about equity and a lot of the work that we needed to do. So Anne's been a partner with us and with me since the very beginning. And Marin Promise's goals of having milestones, which I forgot my chart in my office to show, but their goals and our goals are almost completely aligned. We've adopted a lot of their milestones actually in our goals for the district in terms of kindergarten readiness and third grade reading and math and college readiness and college enrollment and college success. So it's just great to have a partner that aligns so closely with what our objectives are. And I think the board and a lot of people don't necessarily know exactly what Marin Promise does. So I thought it'd be great to have Ann Matheson, who's the executive director, come and tell us a little bit about what they do. And Shelley and Juliet are here also, who work there. And so one of the key things that we talk about at a higher level, I'm on the partnership council, executive committee. Debbie's on the partnership council. So there's a lot of people throughout Marin from school districts and nonprofits that are aligned as well for this equity work. And we've really been looking at the policies that we need to adopt. And we've talked kind of offline a lot about the A to G requirements and whether those should be the default graduation requirements of the district. So we have kind of a proposal for that we've talked about that I'll let Ann talk about. But really excited again, and a lot of the work that they do on these teams that we have our staff on looking in the detail. And the other thing is they run a lot of data, which you'll see some for Novato as well. So really thank you for your partnership, and I'll invite Ann up to give you guys an overview and tell you a little bit more about Marin Promise. And I will say that we have a 10 slide limit, and Ann slid hers in at a little over that. So, but we'll, but I let her get away with that. So we'll go from there.
We are going to zip through those. Do full screen. It takes a village. Yay! Takes a village, thank you. Great, thank you guys for having us. Hopefully you got these slides in advance, so we're not gonna go through every slide. We'll be whipping through really quickly. But our vision and your vision, as Jim said, is to make sure every single child in Marin County reaches their full educational potential, regardless of their race, ethnicity, or income. And the way we do that, and what makes Marin Promise different than delivery partner or somebody who's actually working with students, is we don't teach, we don't tutor, we don't provide scholarships. We are really working to create a civic infrastructure throughout the county that makes sure that we change the system throughout our county to work for all kids. And we don't believe that schools can do it alone. We don't believe that government can do it alone. We believe that it takes all of the different component parts working together. And what we do working together is, we call it the 4 A's to make it easy to remember. Align our goals, which Jim already talked about. Hold ourselves publicly accountable for the outcomes that we've collectively decided that we want to use. Take action, not just talk about, but move. And then advocate for what's working, what looks promising, and align funding and policy behind those things. And so we believe that 1 + 1 is 3, and so we work with partners. We have 35 partners that include Novato School District, other school districts across the county, nonprofits, community-based organizations, government departments, et cetera. And those are the leaders of the organizations, and they come together and they set the outcomes that we're all aligned with. And then we also have people working more on the ground, so we call these groups action teams, and those involve a lot of people from Novato who we'll be looking at later. So combining the content expertise of these partners with the expertise of Marin Promise, which we would say is process know-how. So we know how to make sure that people are aligned. We call ourselves cat herders sometimes because we get people to convene in meetings at all different levels. We keep people focused on the goal by holding them accountable with data. And then we facilitate the action, make sure that happens, and then steward the advocacy. So we talked about alignment. This is the Marin Promise report card. And in your packets, you've got not only the county level report card, which is here, but the Nevada specific report card. And we try to kind of boil down all of the key data that we may want to track around the 6 milestones that Jim mentioned. And then we look at overall how we're doing, how many kids in the district are meeting the milestone. So, for example, how many kids are reading proficiently by the 3rd grade? 48%. That's overall. And then we break it out and we look at low income, which we use right now as a proxy for race. And so Hispanic, Latino, African American students, it's pretty close to what you're seeing here. We're actually going to change that and actually call it out directly on race next year. So the next time you see this report card, it'll look a little bit different. But it's important that we compare how our overall kids are doing with how our low-income kids are doing. And you can see that there's large percentage gaps across all of the milestones. And we can take more questions about this a little bit later if we want to. The number at the bottom is probably the most important number. The first column you can kind of ignore, that's still countywide because we haven't split that out by district yet. But the other numbers will tell you the number of kids in Novato that are not meeting the milestone. So 279 kids in Novato across all the schools are not reading at grade level, and so on across the milestones. But you can see it's not huge numbers of kids, which kind of helps us really focus on, therefore, where are those kids, what population groups do they fall into, and how do we help them? I'm now going to turn this over to Shelley, who's going to talk about action teams, how we take action, because she is we have 3 action team facilitators who actually work with these groups of people to move things forward. So I'm going to let her talk about how they do that.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to Novato, because Novato's been one of the, or probably the longest action team partners. So the college enrollment action team that I helped facilitate worked first with Novato Unified. And so it's been a long-term partner. And again, as noted up here, it's really a process of continuous improvement on the action team. So the action teams are made up of school district personnel, all of nonprofits and CBOs that work in the district, community members, some business members, all aligned around the goal with the action team, and all with the idea of doing continuous improvement, learning from each other and learning over time. And one example of that, has been the idea that in Novato, in terms of the collaborative action work that we've done, started here with the financial aid work for the college enrollment action team, refined it a couple of years, and then transferred it over to San Rafael. So San Rafael district benefited from what was learned in Novato, and vice versa. The application work was started in San Rafael, refined it over a couple of years, and then transferred it here to Novato. So now both districts are doing both application and financial aid work. And that's just an example of how the iterative collaborative work is happening. So there's 6 different milestones, and there's 6 action teams. One of our action teams in the college readiness, there's actually 2 action teams in the college readiness. So we've got action teams spanning from 3rd grade reading through college completion. And under each of those action teams, and again, our role is really facilitating, holding the space, being the process facilitator. But the strategies come out of all of the action team members. We don't set the strategies. We highlight the data, we facilitate the meetings, we herd the cats, get everyone there, make sure they have the information that they need, but all of the strategies and the decision making and the direction comes from the action team members themselves. As we mentioned, there are team, you have a list of all of the team members from Novato on the different action teams, and it's really important, and I feel incredibly fortunate that, and we've seen that the action team members, they show up month after month, because that's really important that they get to know each other. One of the other things that I've heard in terms of thinking about staff turnover is when new staff come, there's been a fantastic handoff from old staff to new staff. So when there's a transition, both staff members will show up for at least a meeting to do the handoff. And the new staff people that have come in have said, this is a great place for us to, it's like a one-stop shop to get to know everybody right off the bat and get oriented. So it's a great orientation mechanism for new staff members in terms of that whole spectrum. Oops, wrong direction. The other thing that we do is we set goals. If we're going to close the gap along these lines, what's it going to take to get there? So we take that long-range perspective, and then we iterate on a year-to-year basis. And we look at, we can't just look at now, but we really are looking all the way out to 2028. So with respect to Novato, what we're seeing, at least in the college enrollment action team, because we've been here long enough, we're starting to see some directional correlation between the strategies around financial aid and application support services and college enrollment. So we're starting to see, after about 5 years of work, some correlation between the work that the collaborative action team is doing and the college enrollment numbers going up. One of the key learnings, I believe, that I've heard a lot from the action team members has been the success of embedding the work in the school. So it's the partnership between the nonprofit organizations and their expertise working in the schools to do the all-school rallies for financial aid, working in the econ and gov classes to help the students with financial aid, and the message that that sends to all of the students. And so now I'm going to turn it over to about our college readiness action team, and this one is looking at policies with Juliet.
Hi there. Yes, so one of the action teams that I facilitate is A through G policy. And A through G, if you're not familiar, is the UC-CSU entrance requirements that they expect. So this is a list of classes that every student has to have, a number of years of math, a number of years of science, history, and so on. And that's just to apply to get into any state school, whether it's UC or CSU. And I facilitate this policy action team, which includes the deputy superintendents and includes our partners in the community. College of Marin attends, 10,000 Degrees attends, And something that I've been excited about over the past year is we have a group of students who have become part of our action team as well. They came to us having surveyed about 500 students across all of the high schools and asked what students, particularly students of color, knew about A through G requirements. And what they found is they didn't know anything or they didn't have the right information. And so these students were invited to become part of our action team, and I believe they may have even presented to this board and continue to help us lead the way. What we're trying to do is to support a policy that will take into effect this year, and it will create A through G success for all. So we've renamed it with the success piece, and that's really important because it's not just an access issue, it's really a success issue. And prior to my role here with Marin Promise, I've been here 1 year now, I was a college professor for 10 years and the chair of the Department of Secondary Instruction. And so my research is with newcomer and English language learners, which I understand is part of our success support needs in our school districts. And so I say that because it's really near and dear to my heart that we do this right and we do it thoughtfully and carefully and well. And so we're talking about putting this stake in the ground to make sure that all students have A through G by 2025, and that the supports are actually implemented between now and that time. And that gives our 4 school districts time to really consider what are the kinds of things that we need to do to get this so that everybody graduates with the aligned A through G courses. Doing it together is really important because when we have all 4 school districts doing it at once, it just has power for the community, the parents, everybody sees that this is happening, and it's a real equity mission, it's a real civil rights mission. And so that is, you can see on the board, these are the A through G courses, and you can see how far away each school district is to meeting them. And it's a little bit different for each district, and part of our role was to provide the data to say, you know, districts, what do you need to do to get there? So we have a couple of slides that show what it takes to get there. And this is one of them, and you can see per class. And we also had our data person put together a plan of what would it really take to get there, to get to that 2025. And for each district, again, it's a little bit different. Some are closer, but they may have different barriers and obstacles that they'll have to consider. For example, world language has come up as a barrier for some schools because we don't have enough foreign language teachers. And so that's where the action team is really powerful, because then we have COM there who says, well, we have space and we have professors. Why don't we figure out a way of having your students concurrently take classes that they get credit for at both places? So part of the design of this is to really figure out how we can answer the questions when a barrier comes up, what can we do to solve it? And you can see that our goal is to increase the number of requirements so that this is a gradual approach, and again, with the supports that put into it. And in your slide packets, it talks about the urgency of this. If we put this in now and say we're doing this by 2025, then that's where we can really say now we're accountable for this and we're responsible for, you know, making sure that this happens for our students. And now I'm going to talk a bit about, let me just make sure, our advocacy work. And our advocacy work as our partnership, when you heard Ann talk, she said that we have 35 partners that cross the business community. We have our CBOs, which are community-based organizations, our school districts, et cetera. And they all came together and determined what some of the advocacy and policy issues that we want to tackle. And so we have several of those. We have one of the initiatives that we're looking to support is staff diversity. We want to make sure to increase the number of people of color and administrators of color and teachers of color that work with our students. It's really important that they match the students' lives, and so that's one thing that we're going towards. We're also looking at making equitable funding as a policy and advocacy initiative, so making sure that all schools get what they need to make sure that their learning opportunities are equitable. And the other piece is the cultural competency, and that's something that's part of my responsibility when I came on board, was to figure out how could we assess and do a baseline cultural competency report for our partners. And so I took a look at different ones, and I chose one from Portland because it was developed specifically by people most impacted by policies and practices. And so they're typically people of color, they were women, they were marginalized populations, and they came up with 20 questions that they thought would be most useful if they could ask businesses or if they could ask school districts these questions. So I'm happy to say that we're now at 86% of our partners have taken this assessment, and it's on racial equity. And it was really powerful and important for us to look at racial equity as our baseline, because when you strip away all other indicators, this is still the one that determines outcome for people of color. And so we took a really bold step, I think, for Marin County. There's a lot of diversity talk and a lot of equity talk, but there's not a lot of racial justice talk. And it's really the first time I'm aware of in the community. I've been working here for at least 15 years. And it's really exciting to see the partners who are engaged in this work take this assessment and then find out where they stood on these questions. And it would ask things, for example, have you made a public commitment to racial equity? Yes, no, question mark. And then the process is that I came back to each and every single partner organization and asked, how did you do it? Who made it? What does it say? So there's a follow-up piece to it. It's not just those first 20 questions, but it was really understanding what the cultural competency baseline is for all of our partners so that we can now take steps to move forward. This is the overall county-wide cultural competency baseline, and then in your packet you have Novato's baseline. And so again, what's exciting about this is an opportunity to say, now what are the areas that we really want to start with, and then let's do this year. And so we're starting to pick out some of those. And the first one is that we want a common definition of racial equity with all organizations. And so we're going to create that definition in our next meeting in October, and hopefully wordsmith something that we feel we're responsible for the racial equity and racial justice of Marin County students, and that lives on our websites and our documents, and that it's common so that anybody who comes to this county can see that that's what we're working towards. And so that's one area that we've decided to work on. And there are other areas that we asked each organization individually what they want to do, and then we'll assess from that point. So that's just a real quick overview. And I'm going to let Ann come back and talk about this part, because we wanted to talk a little bit about the partnership agreement and what we have with Novato and Marin Promise and why we're here. Thank you.
The other thing I was going to mention is that Marin Promise has a website. It's www.marinpromise.org. What a surprise. But the cool thing about it is, if you want more information or more data on any of the milestones, so if you want to know more about third grade reading and what the data looks like across the county, or there's a place to drill down for your district, you can drill down by school and then by population group to really get some detailed data that you might want to use. And it also will talk about the strategies that the action teams are in the process of implementing. So there's a lot of good detailed information on the website if you want to look at that. And Novato is one of our first partnership council members, and you've signed a partnership council agreement. And one of the first things Jim said when he came up here was, one of the first people I met when I came to Marin was Ann, and that's because I was waiting for the new superintendent to come on board, right? Because what happens a lot of times in counties across the nation is that superintendents turn over every 3 years or less. And so, you know, somebody new comes in and they have new ideas and a new approach and everything else. And so you can sometimes get derailed. So by having a countywide civic infrastructure with specific milestones that we're all agreeing that we're reaching towards, when a new superintendent, you know, or a new action team member comes in, you can say, hi, welcome to the table. Here's what we're doing as a county. And now, of course, every district and every superintendent is still going to have their own things that they're doing. But it's a way for us to keep moving as a county and as a community and really own these results as a community. And then have people come in and come out of this partnership, which will happen all of the time. But if we have this structure in place, we can do it more seamlessly and hopefully make more progress more quickly as Marin County. And this Partnership Council Agreement is what allows us to do that, because we ask not only the leader of the organization to sign it, but the board members. And so we'll be bringing this agreement back to you this year. And what we ask for each of the members is to align their goals, to share relevant data. So a big part of how we can do our work is that school districts agree to share their data. And it's been amazing how school districts and organizations in Marin have been really willing to kind of bare their souls, if you will, and kind of say, yeah, we're not doing the job that we want to be doing for some of the populations of students, and to be really open about that, which is the first step. Allowing Jim to spend time on this, allowing Debbie to spend time on this. You saw the list of staff. And just holding ourselves all publicly accountable for these results, so that if by 2028, or even by 2020, if we're not well on our way to starting to close these gaps, we are letting our community know. So I'll stop there, and we'd love to take questions if you have time.
Absolutely. Questions from the board, comments? Anybody? No? Okay.
Just want to thank you guys for the work that you're doing. I think it's important that we're focusing on A to G, and I know that you have reached out to all the districts. I have a brother on the city San Rafael School District, so I hear a little about how it's going there as well. So just appreciate the partnership, and I have no questions tonight, but I want to thank you for coming.
Great. Maria, Trustee Aguila.
And I thank you for, when I first came to the United States 40 years ago, 40, I mean, I thought, I think I was the only Latino student, and in the community. I mean, that's in my mind. Probably there were, but I didn't see anybody that was like me. And so, how far have we come? I mean, I think this is wonderful. You guys have done so much. I mean, just Novato, and in many ways, to try to accommodate not just Latinos, but just different languages, different cultures, and just to have variety. And so I really appreciate that. And in NUSD, we do the same thing here too. So, we've just come so far. And so this is wonderful information. Thank you.
One other thing, just to respond to Derek in terms of the importance of this being cross-county, and in thinking about trying to pass an A to G policy, all of the, superintendents and people working on this have said it's going to be really powerful to do this as a county, so that it's not district by district, and, we can have really a cohesive approach. And the nonprofits have really said to the superintendents, hey, we've got your back on this, because we know there will be people in the community who aren't in favor of it, or who are scared about it, or worried about moving that direction, because it sets the bar high, and then we have to reach it. But the community is really committed to working in partnership with the school districts. So it's not an us-them, it's really an inside-outside approach. And that's, I think, what will make the difference for Marin and allow us to really be a model for the rest of the state to make this happen.
Trustee Mack?
I just want to say thanks for coming out, because I've heard about you guys tangentially, but finally it kind of all came together. So thank you for doing that. I really appreciate it, because this is central to everything we're trying to do. Equity, not equality. And it takes a while for us to beat that into people, but we have to, unfortunately. It's just something we have to relentlessly do, and I'm glad you guys are doing it. So.
Okay. Trustee.
And I just want to say thank you very much for coming. I think this is a perfect example of teamwork, and everybody in the group, the community, the school district, everybody with the same goals. And I love the idea of all of our students achieving the A to G requirements. It's a huge hurdle, so don't let's fool ourselves about that. That's going to be a lot of work, but doing it together, and I think you got to have a goal. So I think it's great.
Great. I can't add too much more to that. Our action team for Novato, we have a few vacancies, it looks like, some people that have left, moved on, so I think we'll have to, staff will be working to fill those voids, I hope, and Amy will take care of it.
Amy will.
That's the
Amy's-
answer for everything.
Right, our,
No.
you know, within the month, we'll be sitting
Yeah.
down, hopefully with you and Jim, and just kind of going through the agreement. One really exciting thing is that we now have an MOU with Novato for student-level data, and actually, we have an addendum coming because
Okay.
our data manager changed, we just
Oh, right.
changed the name.
Right.
But having that student-level data, which of course we don't share with anyone else, but then we can do the analysis, and it really helps, we can start to understand really what strategies are working for what kids, and that's a level of collaboration and cooperation that not many communities have.
Right.
And so we've now have that agreement, legal agreement in place, and this is the year that we're really going to implement it and really
Right.
put it to action. So you'll hopefully be seeing some, exciting information from your representatives from action teams, bringing that to you guys.
Great. Well, thank you again for coming. This
Thank
was
you.
Debbie,
huge.
one comment?
Yes, Trustee Miller.
As we share data with you guys, cybersecurity is becoming more and more an issue, and our student data is important. I would like to make sure you work with our IT director, who's in the back of the room, make sure we review the security measures for any data that resides on your machines as opposed to ours is properly protected.
Absolutely. I think
Very much.
the MOU has a lot of those.
Well, beyond
Protections
the MOU, I'd
outlined.
like to make sure we do some personal double check because
Sure.
student data becoming available in the public is something none of us want, and better be safe than sorry.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, so we look forward to the agreement coming forward, the change in that, so appreciate it. Yes, thank you. Hi, Trustee Millerick. Thanks for coming. I'm glad you're here. No. The next item is our staff reports. Let's move on to certificated staffing update, and Chris Koska will be presenting that. And you do have the reorganization, or the organization chart of the district office here and at your table.
Thank you for getting that.
You're welcome. So I'm going to walk you through a PowerPoint that shares the same information that you have in the board cover sheet, just in a slightly different format. And then you have the organizational chart, which will be my last slide. We'll talk a little bit about that. So each year we bring to you a certificated staffing update, kind of talks with you about how hiring went through the spring and into the summer. And as we get ready for the start of the school year. So interestingly, I did this same report a year ago, and at that time we had hired 31 teachers for the 17-18 school year. So very similar to what we hired last year, a little bit different with the credential areas, but you'll see sort of the big areas, math, science, special education. I should probably have Spanish on there. We hired, it was 3 or 4 Spanish teachers. We still have 1 vacant. Hired a couple speech language pathologists. We hired 1 school psychologist. We've also hired a couple other psychologists on contract, so they're not our employees, but we're contracting with an agency to provide those services. The good news is we're actually fully staffed for psychologists this year, which I haven't been able to say prior to this year. And then, of course, we've hired teachers in many other credential areas. It's been a big year on the certificated administrative hiring. We keep talking about Amy. We're going to keep talking about Amy. We're so lucky to have her. It's been such a strong addition to our team. And then, sort of holding down the fort in a lot of ways, being the person with history in our district. We have Jen Larson here, who's just doing a phenomenal job. You just met Debbie Richardson, the new principal at San Jose Middle School. Melissa Diaz was hired to be the principal at Linwood. It's bringing a big excitement to that campus. You're going to go into the office. You're going to have a very different feeling as soon as you show up on that campus. Really very, very much energized and working great with her team. We hired Michelle Cortez to be the assistant principal at Novato High School supporting the MSA program, and she comes to us as an experienced principal. I call her a recovering charter school principal. And she has a very strong arts background and is just super excited to be working with the team and supporting an arts-based community. Leslie Smith has stepped up from instructional coach to become our equity coordinator. Remember, we have 2 less coordinators in the district office, so we've had to kind of combine positions a little bit. We think we've done so in a pretty strategic way. So Leslie Smith will be overseeing equity, and she'll be providing support to our English learners. Catherine Naum will be supporting teaching and learning, professional development, a number of other areas. And then Karen Valentine's going to be shifting gears and focusing on what is really in her wheelhouse. She's a very strong adult education advocate, has lots of experience as an adult education administrator, and she's going to be working part-time as an administrator in adult ed and part-time as a teacher in adult ed. So excited to have her working with us in that capacity. So what's left? We have a slightly important position to fill. And tomorrow we take a big step in doing that with the principal position at Novato High School. So first round interviews are tomorrow, final interviews are on the 9th. Then we'll go into a very heavy reference check phase and see where we land. We feel really great about the candidates. It was really hard to get it down to 6 people. And that's really kind of a rare thing, honestly. We still have a Spanish vacancy. We still have 2 speech language pathologist vacancies. We've got a line on those. I think we'll be okay there. And then we're still searching for 1 part-time resource teacher supporting Marin Oaks. So everybody can read that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so thankfully you have a printed document in front of you. Unfortunately, I don't, so I'm going to steal Sally's. So what we're trying to convey to you is what our new organization looks like. And we feel like it starts at the top with students, parents, and our community. And then in green, we have the Board of Trustees. Then we have Superintendent Hogaboom. And then aligned with that, we have our elementary principals, our cabinet level positions, which are the purple positions, our secondary principals on the right-hand side, and then our coordinators who are providing support, and then the business folks, so people supporting those departments like fiscal services, maintenance operations, food service, and then facilities. So there have been a lot of big changes. We want to make sure you're aware of them. We will, believe it or not, have a more complicated organizational chart that we will get to you as we continue to work on that, so you can really see where everybody is and what they are doing. So, but we did want to make sure you are aware of what the structure looked like now, and this will continue to evolve a little bit.
Okay. Good. Comments, questions from the board? No? Is the org chart? Okay, yes, Trustee Miller.
2 things the one thing to note, as you look at this chart, Superintendent Hogaboom has to manage up to 7 people, and he has to manage down to 17 people. And I'd like to acknowledge just how difficult that position is. 17 direct reports is a large load, and I know you spent lots and lots of hours to make that successful, and I'd like to acknowledge it when we're seeing the load right in front of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing that.
And if I could add to that, I've worked with a lot of superintendents in my career. I've never worked with a superintendent who challenges me and makes me better, actually, through the evaluation process and the goal-setting process and the check-in process. So not only does he have a lot of them, but he also does it really well. Boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trustee Aguila.
So this is so wonderful. We've seen this before. It's updated. Could we somewhere in here add the date or revise?
Yes.
Maybe you have it, but we don't in this one.
That's a
so.
great idea. Thank you, Maria.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
We
Anybody
will
else?
do that.
One other comment. I see Nancy New is standing in at Novato High, and acknowledge her long commitment from serving as a teacher to a principal at San Jose Middle School to now, and superintendent in Shoreline District back now to serving Novato one more time, and should be thank heavens for her commitment to this community.
Yeah, that's the truth. Whenever we find out about these vacancies, we kind of rack our brains to think who's the right person to come in and do this. And you kind of go through the mental Rolodex, and it's neat when you get to that right card and you're like, yes, that's the one. And then her willingness to always step up and help us out is amazing. Yeah.
Great.
Also really encouraged, we got so many candidates that speaks to the
Yeah.
Nevada High campus. That's great.
Could we get this on our website in some place?
Yeah, we'll work with Leslie to find the right spot for that.
Have it electronically on there somewhere?
Yeah,
Okay.
with a date.
With a date, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
All right,
Will
you're
you
very
give us
welcome.
an enrollment update eventually in
Yes,
September, correct?
absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mhm.
Next for our staff report is our school resource officer update, and Superintendent Hugaboom will be presenting that. This is a staff report. This item will come back for discussion action at our next board meeting.
Hello again. So this is the informational item about the school resource officers, and you have the draft MOU. Really want to thank Adam McGill. I've worked with a lot of police chiefs in my time, and I think Adam is probably one of the most qualified police chiefs I've ever worked with, and he's really brought an energy and vigor and innovation to the police department, and really, really enjoy working with him. I think Nevada is really lucky to have him. And I think in this day and age when our community is so concerned about shootings and school safety and all that kind of stuff, having a police chief that works really closely with us is really important. And the history is that we had school resource officers, which went away during the budget cuts, I think during Jan Derby's time. First we had 3, then I think we had 2, then we had 1. So we then formed a relationship with North Bay Security, and Bill Welch has done an amazing job. I'd never seen a relationship like that, and really helped us out. And I think it's now is a great time to partner with Novato PD and with North Bay Security. So this is really the best of both worlds. So that's what we're doing. The city has agreed to pay for 2 police resource officers for this year. And as you'll see in the agreement, then we agree here to, hopefully if the pilot goes as well as we think it will, that we will pay for 1 of those next year. So that's kind of how the thing is going to work out. We just had a meeting actually today. We're trying to work out exactly with the details about who's doing what, but we'll get to that a little bit. So we're continually working with them to determine, again, who's going to do what. We'll be checking in with them and go from there. The 2 police resource officers are Nick Wagner, who's going to be at San Marin and primarily, and then at Sinaloa Middle School, and then help out where needed otherwise. And then the other is Officer Antonio Rodriguez, who will be at Novato High School and San Jose, and also Marin Oaks. And then those will be the 2 main officers that we will have. Officer Antonio Rodriguez is bilingual, so that's great, and hopefully he can make sure to communicate with our students in Spanish. And then we also work with Sergeant Chris Jacob and Lieutenant Sophie Winter, who oversee that. And then Jim Correa and Adam McGill are also involved, and we just met with them today. So just to go through a few of the highlights of the MOU, the main goals and objectives really to have them on campus are to get to know the students and to get to know the staff and the administrators. And that way when things come up, they've got those relationships with those students that helps them to find out information, similar to kind of what North Bay Security does. We had an incident last spring where, because Bill and some of his staff knew some students that were involved and knew other kids that they were hanging out with, we had a threat that was made by one of the students, and Bill was able to track down who that was because he knew the kids. And that's exactly what we're hoping for with the police resource officers. Sometimes we don't need to involve the police, but now that we have 2 police resource officers there, we will. Adam McGill also did a study and found out that basically with all the calls that we were putting into the police resource officers, it was the equivalent of 2 full-time police resource police officers being pulled from their daily patrols anyway. And again, that just pulls them out of being in the community. So this way, they're already on campus. They get to know the administrators. They get to know, hopefully, the parents and students. They're kind of in the know with what's going on. That also helps them on the weekend if they know some of our students and something suspicious is happening, and they've got that relationship. That's really helpful. So they'll be involved in day-to-day things on the campus. Obviously, if there's any criminal activity, they're involved in that, but they're also involved in kind of an advice way sometimes, just to have an officer there to sometimes reinforce things that are happening. They'll do some educational, some drug and alcohol education. They will attend extracurricular activities. As you know, from when the lights hopefully get in there, we'll work with the police resource officers and other officers to be at the football games on Friday nights, or the soccer games to help you at the dances, all that kind of thing. They will work 4 10-hour days. That's in their contract. So one of the police officers will work Monday through Thursday. The other will work Tuesday through Friday. So we'll always have continuity. Let's see. They'll also help out with traffic control when that's needed. In terms of the hiring, it's up to them, but they involve us in the hiring. This year they involved Leslie when they were doing the interviews, and I think she actually was right on board with the 2 officers that were finally selected. So we have input into, we don't have the final say, but we have input into who is selected for that, and we also have input into the evaluation of that, because definitely takes the right person, that has the connections with students. They'll also be helping us out with the safety procedures and safety plans and evacuations, and with our drills on campus and all that. So that Leslie and Bill help us to coordinate those. And let's see. They also attend police training sessions. There's a school resource officer training that I think we just mentioned today is like a 2 or 3 day training up in Sacramento that's coming up, so they're up to speed on that. They also provide training in the education code, district policies and regulations. We did share some concerns with Adam McGill, because we have had some instances when we just had patrol officers who would come over to campus and didn't really have an understanding of students and how to deal with students. And there were a couple instances where some of our students were treated rather roughly, and I think they just didn't kind of get it about how we work with students. And so that's another reason to have the school resource officer who knows how to work with kids, who knows how to talk to kids. Sometimes they can be a little short sometimes if they don't know the students. We will evaluate them, as I mentioned, annually and see how it goes. And we'll be probably meeting monthly just to kind of keep track of how it's going. We'll talk to our principals. I mean, how much time do they need to be spending at, Novato High, then how much time at Marin Oaks and all that. So we will work all that out. And let's see, did I miss anything else?
Chief McGill is here, so he's right there. Why don't you
there he
come
is.
up?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, Adam's doing a fantastic job with the police department. We're very lucky to have him. He and I meet monthly to go over different kinds of things, and he was really the impetus behind this. So you want to say a couple things? I know you guys. Good to see you.
Thanks for invitation up, Jim. We're really pleased to be joining you in this partnership to protect what we believe are our number one customers in the community, our kids and your students, and certainly faculty and staff as well. So I think Jim covered it very well, and I believe you have the MOU in front of you. Of course, work in progress. We'll continue to refine that if we need to expand on a responsibility or role, or limit it, whatever that may be. So we'll be working this year as we ease our way back in. As he mentioned, since 2008, we've been absent from your campuses. So we're anxious to return and rebuild those relationships with the district. So be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, great. Trustee Millerick.
Novato is a diverse community. Often students in our population choose to go into law enforcement or fire safety, and they look to you guys as a model, and you become their inspiration for their career paths. So don't ever forget how important you are in setting a standard for adult behavior and what it looks like for a town working together, police, science, and education. And thank you in advance. Yeah.
Trustee Mack.
I think this is great. I've been looking forward to this for a while. All the more reason with all the recent news, of course, it's absolutely logical. And I think it's going to be good for what Ross just said, but as well just for safety. Just some logistical questions. hours, I hear, like you said, 410s, right, 410s basically. So what hours are you talking about? 7:30 or so to whatever each day, or? I'm just trying to get coverage.
Yeah, so currently under our labor agreements, they're only available to work 410 or 3 12-hour shifts. So of course, the closest one that works to you is the 410. So right now it'll be 7 to 5.
Okay.
So it'll cover they'll be present when school begins and of course present when school ends. We are entering negotiations in the coming year, so there are some, in previous cities I worked for, there's some carve-outs for SROs to improve that schedule that will more mirror a teacher or a district schedule. So we'll certainly hope to negotiate that, but as of now, we're restricted to the 410.
Well, and I'm really heartened to hear that there's gonna be some hours after school gets out, because that's the danger zone, right? That's when dumb things happen. And having you guys there just to kind of remind kids, hey, be cool. That's very helpful. And also too, in terms of just our fields, I've been complaining about security in our fields. It'd be nice to have you guys there, just kind of remind people, hey, you're not supposed to be here, and let the teams that are supposed to be there be there. Helps our coaches, helps our ADs. I'm assuming, of course, Friday nights at San Marin, that's a whole different story. Same with Saturday game coverage, all that kind of. That's not this. That's standard North Bay and whatever else. Okay. An office for these officers on campus, a place to go so that kids know where to go to find them?
Yeah, so there is office space on both campuses. I know where it is at Novato High School, but I'm not quite sure where it is at San Marin.
I don't need to
we've
know
carved
where,
it out,
just the
and so, yeah.
intention, that's all. That we're
Yeah.
planning to do it. Okay, great. Because I think it's really important for what Ross said, but as well just in general for the well-being of kids to know where to find this person as opposed to trying to track them down. And then kind of getting into this heightened environment on immigration and all that kind of stuff, being careful about not, and I know you're already there, I've heard you say it, but how do we balance being present, being seen, with not intimidating unintentionally parents sometimes, as well as some students? Any thoughts on that? Like, where do you park the squad
That's
car?
the
Those sort
key
of
there
things.
is the selection. Jim said it very eloquently. Not every police officer can be a school resource officer. So
Understood.
it's so important for us to pick the right person. And it's certainly it's intentional that the officer assigned to Novato High School we believe is the absolute perfect fit for that environment, and
Sounds like
to
it.
build those relationships. An immigrant himself with quite a story, and is a great personality, very approachable. So we think we're going to make great strides there, not only for the students but the community at large, really, as he will build those partnerships with parents and students throughout the year to create a more welcoming, inviting atmosphere. I mean, we know that there are people that do not report crimes that they're victims of because of being fearful of getting on the radar of immigration or ICE. And I'm just going to take the moment one more time for anyone watching, that is just absolutely not what we do. It is a violation of our policy, the California statutes, law it's a violation of. We do not ask about immigration status. We have no interest in anyone's immigration status. And any officer asking anything remotely close to that would not be consistent with our policy or practice. So
Thanks for
we'll be
reiterating.
putting that out as often as we can. And I heard the Linwood, I have not met her yet, but the Linwood principal we've had meetings with all summer, and we're really excited about some energy that she has in that neighborhood. And I think we're passing out 100 backpacks Thursday night in that neighborhood, a number of students. So we're doing a lot of work and energy in that place. And of course, not to say that that issue isn't important at San Marin High as well. It certainly will be. So even though Officer Wagner is not bilingual, he certainly has the same training and expectations that I have for him as Officer Rodriguez, and certainly Antonio, will get known on San Marin's campus as well. He may not wear their colors, but as the officers becoming part of the campus culture is really important. But nonetheless, both they're going to know both SROs.
Well, that brings up a question. I'm assuming they're going to be in full uniform, normal uniform, or are you saying
Most
they
of the
might?
time, but we'll allow some flexibility to build those kind of relationships.
I
There'll
just
be days they can, but they'll partner with their principals and when that's appropriate.
Okay.
You know, it's a rally day or, you know, some other event, football Friday, we're going to give them that kind of latitude that they can,
Okay. Good to hear.
they can dress down. But there'll be a period where we want them to be very visible and recognizable as the police officer. They'll always have a marked police car, which will be parked there on campus as a deterrent as well. But there'll certainly be days that, we'd let them dress differently, whether that's joining a practice or the weightlifting class or, whatever the principal is comfortable with. And they through the year, they build that sort of partnership together.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Trustee Aguila.
So a couple things. Thank you for being here. The position of the our two officers has been now public thanks to Leslie, and so now our community is aware and everybody's happy about that. So that's great. Thank you, Leslie, for letting everybody know. Now, as far as you mentioned some really good information, and I'm wondering if we can add that also to the manual, student manual at the beginning of the school year, just to let them know, hey, this is, for those who don't know, and it's always good to have in our record that we have 2 new officers. You guys are our friends, nothing to fear. Personally, I think our students should see you there and be with your uniform and know that you guys are the good guys. And so that's my personal opinion. But so if that could be in the student manual or the parent manual at the beginning of the year, both in Spanish or English, in whatever language that needs to be, just to reiterate what we're doing, I think that would be wonderful. But my second thing that I wanted to say was that you mentioned that, so we have the officers in the high schools, and then you have the Bill Welsh in the elementary, and then at some point they will unite. And so that's already established, and I'm wondering about the, if we can just be clear about, in case of crisis or something, of course, everybody's gonna work together. So just because they're assigned to certain schools, when at time of crisis, everybody will work together, correct?
Yeah, so we have a kind of a list of who's going where, and we also have a list of who's covering what. So it says criminal activity. So the principal knows I call the police if it's a 5150, if it's a criminal activity, if it's those kinds of things, and then if it's a home checkup or those are the kinds of things. So, and some of them cross over, but it'll be clear to our principals when they call North Bay Security, when they call the police, and kind of who does what and who's where.
Thank you. So just to make sure, that I just wanted to know that everybody will work together in times of crisis. And the meeting, you mentioned about meeting monthly. Are you meeting each officer individually? Or are you meeting all together and so everybody can talk to each other?
Well, the officers themselves will be meeting with the principals weekly or daily in some cases, so they're there. But what we're talking about is bringing together kind of all the officers and maybe in the principals occasionally and see how it's working in terms of coverage. Are we providing enough coverage at the middle school? Are we there at the right time? And sometimes that'll involve Leslie and me, sometimes Adam and me, sometimes the other different people. So those higher levels will be kind of check-ins. How's everything working? Do we need to make any adjustments?
Okay, including with Bill Welsh?
Yes.
Including?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good that everybody's going to be talking to each other, so that's wonderful. Thank you.
Trustee Cooper.
Yeah, I think that's important. It's an important thing to me is that North Bay Security and Nevada PD work together. Bill's done a good job for us for a long time. Looking forward to this. Thank you to the City of Novato and your department for stepping forward. I didn't see in here in your report anything referencing a cost. Do you have kind of a ballpark of what this is costing, the package? Kind of a.
So your portion, as it's written now, would be 50% of 2 officers, so it's one of the 2.
Okay.
And under today's, which we don't have a new contract, but I certainly don't think
it doesn't
that the
deviate too
city's going to
much.
hit the lottery in the next year.
Yeah.
But it'd be about 140,000.
Okay. And so that would be benefits, everything.
That's everything. Yeah.
Package.
Yeah.
Okay.
So total cost this year, the city's paying for both So, you know, about 300,000. And
Okay.
and we don't charge for vehicles, equipment, training, overtime,
Okay.
all those kinds of things, just straight salary and benefits. So no, we're not gonna bill you for you used 30 gallons of fuel and, you know, as some vendors might do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, well, that's a good solution.
Yeah.
Do you see, so you mentioned the officers at the high school specifically would be there in the morning at the end of the day. They would be there all day essentially?
Predominantly all day, unless they're called away to one of the middle schools or to Marin Oaks, or if something larger was happening at San Marin, they might.
Right.
But I think the objective is primarily they'll report to the high school principals, because they need one sort of central coordinator, supervisor, quasi-supervisor. But we work through the whole district, but the kind of landing zone, so to speak, will be the two high schools.
Okay.
And then they'll go from there, and the feeder schools associated with those so we're not spending lots of time driving back and forth
Right,
across
of
town.
course, yeah.
But you know, there might be a day that they never leave the high school campus. They're there all day, and another day, something's happened at Sinaloa, and they're there for 4 hours, and okay, I'll be back over at San Marin in a few minutes.
Right, right.
But what really is the benefit, even if San Marin has to wait a little bit, or Sinaloa, like Mr. Hogeman was describing, what's been happening is you would get random officer one who has whatever
Absolutely.
number of years of experience and is busy with other things and doesn't want to deal with a school crisis or whatever, where now you have your own. So it should provide a consistent level of service. The training in the education code has gone to the school resource officer training, the state certified, and knows campus culture,
Perfect.
those kinds of things. So it should improve customer service.
Looking forward to that. One more question. With respect to you, I've been hearing in the last couple days anyway, San Jose School District and maybe someone, Diablo or Mount Diablo or some other district is doing a lot of training. Will these two SROs be able to offer us any training with respect to, you know, school shooting incidents or anything like that, active shooter incidents?
Yeah, so Mr. Hogeman mentioned they will work with Leslie and Bill and I think you call it your safety committee, or so they'll help in those kind of pre-plans. They actually likely will not be instructors on the other things, because we'll want them to be participants, because they're part of the campus culture. A principal's going to want to grab onto them, or vice versa. The officer's going to, you know, need to know that campus. So we already do that kind of training for you,
Okay.
but it'll be officers that really have more experience in that sort of tactical response.
Okay.
The school resource officer is a member of your campus, so we want them to. They might be part of the lockdown and protecting a large group in this room, not really dealing with what's happening out there. So,
Good.
so their training will be, you know, protect the campus, of course, and what their role is. But I wouldn't really see them as the instructors, because
Okay.
they need to get good at. They need to know every nook and cranny of that campus.
Sounds good.
So we would provide other teachers for that.
All right, thank you.
Great. Yeah. Trustee Millerick?
So I see the two resource officers as your primary interface, but you have a whole force, and I think there's some advantages in a couple of areas where your force gets to know our campuses. And a couple of them that I'd like to point out is we've had the benefit of having female officers on our campus, and it puts a different character to the relationship. And it changes the tone, and I think there's been an advantage to that, and I would hope, and there's some way as we go forward, that there's an opportunity that people come to understand that policing isn't just a male activity, it's a human activity for both, when we have both women and men police officers. And the second is, if we end up, as we've seen around the country, where we have to go into a lockdown situation, the ability of your team to respond with force as opposed to an individual. The more information we've given you in preparation, the better you can respond. So I guess I'm looking forward to seeing the relationship where you have, you know, campus maps and the structure in place. When the time comes, your entire team is ready to act as a force as opposed to an individual. So I invite you to, you know, engage us in a.
We're already doing all of those
Yeah,
things.
good, okay, good. Thank you very much.
Well, this is great. I think you can, positive, this is what we need to do, bring back our SROs, our school resource officers. So we all do appreciate the two of you coming together and forming this partnership and moving forward to make this happen, and for the police department and the city to be taking the lead in the finance part of it. And we'll definitely revisit this next year for our budget. It is a little tight, but this is definitely an asset to our district and especially our high schools. So thank you very much for bringing this forward. We'll have it back on our next meeting for action, but we just wanted to bring it forward tonight for questions and things. So thank you very much, Chief.
Watch yourself, though.
Wait, are you gonna bill me for that?
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks, Chip.
All right, Leslie's up with a report on School Mint.
Thank you, President Butler.
We're
I'm gonna
giving, we're giving mints to every student.
Little Altoids. So to start off, I'm going to show a video.
Hello, my name is Matt. I wanted to provide you a brief introduction to Schoolmint's online student registration platform. So let's get started. During your first year, Schoolmint will aid your organization by creating and building up to 15 custom forms. These forms will mimic your paper-based registration process. But in future years, you'll be required to manage and maintain your forms. But don't worry, it's easy. Let's take a look at this residence verification form. And perhaps in year 2, we need to add a couple of additional options for families to provide us with some additional forms of proofs of residency. In this case, I'd like to add another option here for a rental agreement. And I'd like to move this particular block of text to above the parent and guardian signature so that parents can see that they're attesting to the above information being true. I can simply drag and drop things where I need them to go. It's very easy to manage forms. In addition, we provide powerful conditional logic options so that you can tailor these forms so that families only see questions that are relevant to them. Custom forms can be combined to create registration and re-enrollment packets. In today's example, I'm creating a registration packet for all of these schools and all of these grade levels. The first question asks me which forms do I want to include in my registration packet. I want to include these 3 forms, and so those boxes are checked. Up next, I have the ability to add an Event Rsvp to our registration packet. An example of this would be a student orientation, where families need to provide a time slot that they're able to come in and meet with a counselor or be a part of a small group activity. You can cap these events at a certain capacity and won't accept any new RSVPs after the capacity's been reached. In this case, I'm including a student orientation example. If you needed to include a payment, we could do that as well. And finally, we're able to order the checklist so that parents see the forms in the order you want to present them to. It's very easy to drag and drop and move forms through the checklist. More than half of the families that access Schoolmint do so on a mobile device. So I thought it would be relevant to show you the registration experience from a parent's perspective as they're enrolling their student in Madison Middle School. Families have already created an account profile and provided us with some basic information like the student's name, the parent's name, and where they live. I can confirm some of those details here, and I'm immediately presented with a registration packet. You'll notice this looks exactly like the checklist that we created in the administrative step. Here I can review forms that have already been pre-populated with relevant information for me to review. If everything looks great, I'm able to simply mark the form as done. As you'll recall, we edited the residence verification form to now include an additional option for a rental agreement. In today's example, I want to provide a copy of the cable bill. So I'm able to quickly and easily take a photo of this document, in this case, a copy of the Comcast cable bill, and include it in my enrollment packet. I can sign the test that the above information is true, mark the form as done. Completing the remainder of the checklist is easy, and families will receive a confirmation via email or text message, depending on their preference, once they've completed the paperwork. Administrative users or registrars will have access to the Manage Registration screen within the administrative portal. From this screen, administrators will have the ability to, at a glance, see families who have begun the registration process, completed registration paperwork, and those families that have had their registration verified. At a glance, I can see that Aaron Coates has not started the registration packet process. However, Aaron Smith, who is our student that we just completed paperwork for, has all of these forms completed. We can see a summary of those forms here at the top, and they've RSVP'd to our student orientation seminar. What we need to do is now verify that all of the information they provided is true and correct. Here I can see a checklist where I can review each of these forms individually, or for instance, I can review the documents the family has uploaded and provided. Here I can see the Comcast cable bill we took a picture of. And it looks like I have everything I needed. However, if I needed to send a quick email or text message to this family, communication's built right in. The dashboard gives administrators a powerful view into all enrollment requests across the organization. At a glance, I can see that I've got 80 families that are still working on their registration packet process. If I need to send a quick message out to this group of students and families, I can select the grouping and email or text message all of them at the same time. In this case, I want to remind families that registration packets are due next Friday. Here I have a tailored message that I've created that will let families know that we really need to get these paperwork back in order to be ready for school on day one. You'll see that there's also a text message version of this message for families that have requested text message communication, and I can send it now or later. I hope you found this brief introduction to the School Mint on.
So that was a very fast 5 minutes on what we've been doing since you approved this in June. So basically, our IT department and School Mint have been working together about getting our Aries information into an email, to a code, so it's mapped correctly, so that on Thursday we're going to send out an email through School Mint, probably email and text, with a code to all our parents saying, okay, your registration, your re-enrollment information is ready to go. Same concept here. They were talking about applications for new students, but this would be for your re-enrollment package, like your emergency card, this and that. The video started out with talking about building your forms. Well, Cassandra Diaz, who's the systems analyst in IT, she's been building those forms. School Mint built some of them, but she's built a lot of them, and I sat with her and was showing it, and it really is very easy in how to do that. So we're building a lot of them this year. We've done about, and for PTAs, we've done about 5 schools for PTA forms. We want to push that out to the schools next year so they can kind of tailor their own forms as well. As a district, we'll do the district-wide forms and then train our staff to do the school-specific forms. So on Monday, yesterday, we had a training, and about 40 staff members came. We had an hour and a half in the morning, hour and a half in the afternoon, and so they kind of learned these basics. They got their login and sort of an introduction to it. Site techs as well as office managers and registrars. There are some principals there. So I feel we have a good coverage at the schools on how to support them in being able to access that dashboard, and then along with Cassandra, myself, and I'm going to throw Tim Roca in there as well to support our schools. So that's kind of what we've been doing this summer, is getting ready for this launch.
No, this is exciting. Questions? Trustee Mack.
This is so cool. I love this. It's kind of like what I sell all day, except in the banking environment. But anyway, this is great stuff. Question about, I know you're already talking about decentralizing it so that eventually each campus can take care of themselves in this
For their
regard.
site-specific forms.
Right.
Site-specific, not our
Only
district-wide.
for their stuff, right.
Yeah.
Just taking that a step further to the extracurricular groups, whether it's MSA, collecting money, the sports teams, registering for concussion training, all that fun stuff. Eventually.
Eventually, I mean, the athletics have their own family ID right now, and
Right.
they've been using that for the past couple years and really developed that. So I don't know, I haven't had that conversation with them. I think we really want to launch it with our re-enrollment forms
Yeah,
and
I
then
get
with
it. Yeah,
everything,
yeah, one
and see
step
how
at a
that
time.
goes
Yeah.
and see how we can expand it after that. But one of our goals, I've been talking to Jen Larson, is about with our new student applications and our program-specific applications is to have all those online as well, the MSA, the STEM, medical pathways, MBI, dual immersion, have that all in the same platform so parents have one place to go.
Right. But I do think that once this gets out and the parents start using it, they're pretty much going to tell the boosters, hey, you got to use School Mint. So it'll kind of take care of itself. But anyway, I just wanted to understand it. So
Yeah.
you're thinking about it. Got it. Thanks.
And just before I move on, Yancey, I believe, provided some information because we had questions about data security, somebody here, and we all got that feedback, that information back to us. So I just want to remind everybody that we did get that back. So I had Trustee Nell and then Trustee Millerick.
Trustee Mack asked my question about the flexibility of forms and how individual programs could make use of it. So I'll just say that I'm glad to see us moving ahead. This is a long-time initiative of the district, which is to take advantage of the new technologies as far as operational expenses and costs and efficiency. So I'm really glad to see us taking a step in this direction, and I hope it works out, and I hope we're also prepared for the multi-channel distribution, which is a fancy word for can we still mail somebody a form if they ask us to?
Absolutely.
So
Or they can come
it
pick
always
it up.
starts out that way. So because you did mention text
Yeah.
as well, so that's a channel of distribution. So I just want to make sure that we can accommodate all, and but I'm looking forward to it, and I hope it proves to be very beneficial for everyone.
Trustee Millerick.
The school fuel, actually, their offices are at Market Street, about 2 blocks from where I work. This is part of the new digital technology, School Mint, new digital technology. As the industry moves forward, Amazon's point about every time you can reduce friction in a process, you do a better job. School Mint was organized around charter schools, and with the tools that they had, they were able to quickly address and meet a parent's needs before the regular public school could, because they were using better, more efficient tools. We're a public school and we can make the same choice. We can find better ways to serve our customers. We can make it easier. We can make it, instead of having to get onto a computer or a green screen or fill out a piece of paper, we can figure out how to make it so on your cell phone you can do the work you need to do to get your child enrolled. And there are a lot of people where that is now the majority, that is the way they communicate. They use their cell phone. They're at the grocery store shopping and they finish their work on their cell phone and they submit it. That we have chosen a technology that's at the cutting edge of reducing friction and making services better. I'm thrilled. We're a public agency, and not every public agency is that willing to move forward. To discover that we can also use it for, besides registration, which was the target application, but for all of the other MSA or other programs that we offer, or and make the service we provide our customers in Novato even easier for them to take advantage of, just puts the school district at the front edge of where every public agent should be, and we need to be doing this. So I'm thrilled. This is wonderful. This is the first time I've seen it demoed. Looks pretty straightforward. I'm sure they have a large following in the charter school industry because those schools needed the competitive edge. And we're just taking advantage of it and taking the competitive edge away from them and then put it back in the regular public school. And that's what a charter school should have done to public education, make us do a better job. And this is a better job, so I'm thrilled. And I look forward to finding other applications to make it even easier for our customers to get services from this district and us to provide it at less cost. It's wonderful.
Yeah, great. Thank you for providing the timeline and what you've done so far.
Yes.
It's really appreciated, and
Yeah.
what you plan to do going forward. So
Yep.
that's gosh, I have no questions myself, so thank you so much.
You're
Appreciate
welcome
the
so much. I'm
update.
very excited. I mean, I don't have
exciting.
any kids in school
I
anymore.
know.
But, you know, it's
No.
what I wanted, so I'm so glad.
No. Yeah,
I don't think they want to.
No. No.
It was so easy, honey, I put you back in third grade.
Okay, as I said earlier, we are gonna adjourn the meeting in memory of Ron Franklin, so we'll be doing that this evening. This meeting's adjourned.